Good morning. I am Forrest Kimbrell with 1836 Property Management. I am joined here by Tanner Turnbow of Lone Star Home Cleaning. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, or maybe afternoon if you're on the East Coast. Thanks for joining us. If you are a repeat visitor here, you may notice I'm a fresh face. I am one of the real estate investment managers here at 1836. But I have been taking up some of the marketing duties in Matt's stead. But yeah, thank you for joining us. Thanks for your patience. My first time hosting one of these events on here. But yeah, I'm happy to reach some new, maybe sometimes familiar or new faces. But yeah, like I said, we are here joined with Tanner Turnbow, our rep at Lone Star Home Cleaning, one of our licensed, experienced, knowledgeable vendor partners that services Greater Austin area. They specialize in home deep cleaning, commercial cleaning services. They're our go-to for make ready, vacant, and tenant turnover cleaning services. But Tanner, thanks for joining us. Tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us about your journey to Lone Star Cleaning, and tell us about your company.
Awesome, Fort. Thank you so much. Really excited and honored to be here and to be a partner with 1836. They are the top in the property management game. You can just check Google. They pull up first on the map pack, so you know that you're working with the best. So my name is Tanner Turnbow. I'm the owner of Lone Star Home Cleaning. So we've been in business for about 3 years. I actually started this cleaning business while I worked alcohol sales job. Kind of with the focus on trying to work with property management, kind of like for a repeat business model. So then kind of did that, work with a few property managers here, did stuff with student turns, and then got connected with 1836 probably about a year ago, and then kind of took over the whole make ready system. So really enjoy it. And we're kind of really getting the hang of like good communication with 1836, making sure that the homes look great and everything like that.
Awesome, love that. You know us. We're all about communication, especially with our vendors. That's top. That's one of our top priorities because we're. I know it's property management. We're really just people management, right? We coordinate people, whether it's vendors or residents or owners or members of our own team. We just want to make sure that we have open communication with all parties. So Tanner does a great job of heading that and making sure that we get quick responses and reaching our standards for our cleaning services. So let's jump right in. I want to give a quick context breakdown of what we're looking for here. So today we're going to talk about cleaning and how it relates to our ROI at the end of the day, right? That's what our owners want to know. So how do we get there? We have to have happy tenants, right? The value of a happy tenant, I always say that's the best thing that can happen for one of our owner clients is to have a satisfied tenant who is ready to renew, right? We're going to talk about how that translate from just having a clean property to a happy tenant to having cash flow. How do we bridge between the two? And then we're going to talk about real examples of that. And then we're going to talk about cleaning as a preventative maintenance as well. Not the first thing that comes to mind to most, I think, when they think of just, I just want to touch up the property or clean the property, how that relates to maintenance as well, and how it could save you in the long run. Let's jump in. Let's start at the top and talk about the value of a happy tenant. Our clean and welcoming home. That's pretty straightforward, right? Not rocket science here, but Tanner, when your team is cleaning a home, maybe touch on what you're looking for. Maybe standards and how it relates to presenting well to both a prospect and to a tenant.
Right. So kind of like as soon as we're entering one of these homes, the first thing we're checking baseboards, all counter surfaces, all bathrooms, all windows, stuff like that. Stuff that's easily visible as soon as you walk in the home that could be dirty or clean. Because as soon as they first walk in the home, they're really just trying to assess what the home looks like. And if all those quick look areas are covered, and as well as everything else, carpets are vacuumed, everything looks like it's been fresh cleaned, and there's also like a really distinctive smell like after we clean, so that like when you're walking into a home, it smells nice and fresh. That's really what we're looking for, because we found that's just the best way. When the tenants walk in, it feels like the management actually cares about them and they're actually going the other steps.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I love the smell. That's a great point. You can present as fantastically as you want on a on photos, and those can
Right.
sparkle. But if you walk in and you get a little bit of a dinge, it's gonna
Yeah,
deter you. I'd
it's
say.
you're finding an uphill battle already.
Exactly. And the thing about first impressions is oftentimes that is the only thing that matters. Whether you're on a first date or in a job interview or the first time you're walking into a potential long-term home. Of course, that's going to make a huge difference in an agent's or a prospect's perspective on this particular property, right? So first impressions really matter. I really liked what you talked that point you made about showing that it presents that the owner and the management care about the property, right? It is no coincidence that um, you know sometimes less cared for properties aren't cared for as well by those residents or by those tenants, right? When the tenants can tell that their landlord cares about their property, they are going to, more often than not, right, across the board, care for it themselves, right? They're going to make sure that they're putting in maintenance requests on time. They're going to do their own due diligence and troubleshooting to make sure that things and maintenance doesn't go to the wayside. So all that is starts up front with their first impression of the property. The other thing I wanted to touch on here was how you can the leasing versus sales negotiations, right? So a lot of times when we're showing a vacant property, um, when you're on the sales market, there's a lot of communication. Hey, we like this. We don't necessarily like this. On the leasing side, in my experience, we'll have agents show their clients 5, 10 properties over the weekend. So if they walk into a property and they see something that they don't like, whether that's a bad smell, a clean, a dirty surface, or maybe some bugs or pests that are very are common in vacant properties and they haven't been swept up. That could be an initial deterrent, and oftentimes it's not a matter of, hey, for us in 1836, are we going to get this cleaned up? Are we going to address these items? They're going to move on to the next property, right? And that's an unfortunate reality in the leasing, in the rental market. So yeah, thanks for those notes, Tanner. I think the other thing is turnovers, right? We want to hold on to our tenants. We want them to renew. And in my experience, I've seen countless times we'll receive move out feedback. So tenants that are moving out of the property and they talk about their move in week or move in weekend, right? And they'll still have they'll be holding on to some grievances or some gripes from their first 3 days on the property, and that will have maybe not um, been the number one reason that they moved out, but contributed to their turnover, right? Their eventual move out. So we want to make that first impression and make sure that we are increasing our retention, increasing our residencies, and decreasing our vacancy. Again, a happy tenant is one of the best things that can happen for us as a management company and for our owners. So, yeah, pretty straightforward stuff there on topic number one, right? It's a holistic approach, but in the sense of cleaning, we want to keep our tenants happy. On to number two. So this is titled From Clean to Cash Flow. So let's get into the nitty gritty and talk about and bridge that gap between how we're just keeping our tenants happy, how we're keeping them in place, and how does it actually change our income levels, right? So Tanner, this isn't necessarily your company's forte, right? This isn't something that we're thinking about ROI as we're cleaning the property or making sure that we're scheduling, but what's your general consensus on this?
The general consensus that I have from, when someone walks in a clean property, they're already, feeling a lot better. And then if that first impression with the home is really clean, they're probably not going to want to leave. And we've kind of seen a lot of good upticks where we do like the move out clean or like a touch up clean for a tenant that moved in and maybe something was missed. A lot of the times they book us for like a monthly reoccurring service. So that's good because that also shows that they love the quality that we're giving them. And then kind of once we're there, happy house, happy tenant, because everything's nice, clean, smells good.
Exactly. And that's a great point. That's almost like a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If a tenant walks in, they see it's really well cleaned. Um, you know, a lot of folks have cleaners come back for their occupied property for a regular service. So yeah, I get asked all the time, who cleaned this property? Can we get their contact info? We want to have them come back out. Even while we're residing in the property. So from Tanner's point of view, he's saying, hey, if we impress them enough to rent the property, maybe they'll hire us, before and for their turnover cleaning as well. So that's great. I think in simplest terms is we want to lease it as quickly as possible, and we want to collect and fetch as high a rent as we possibly can. So we know that when that agent or a prospect is viewing 5 to 10 properties over the weekend, the same example I was using earlier, if they walk into 5 cookie cutter homes and they all look similar, but one really sparkles, it smells really nice, that absolutely could contribute to fetching another $50-$100 a month, depending on the condition and the overall feel of that home when they walk in, right? So a spotless property, it's simply going to reduce our vacancy period. Matt always likes to point out that, if a property is leasing for about $3,000 a month, that's about $100 a day that we are losing in potential rent, not to mention vacancy expenses like utilities and landscaping. So if we can invest one time in anywhere from $100 maintenance check touch-up cleaning to a $300-$400 deep clean, that's just anywhere from 1 to 4 or 5 days of vacancy that we are investing to hopefully cut down our vacancy anywhere from 1 week to a month, right? Because like I said earlier, there's not a whole lot of conversation typically in the rental market between agents and property managers. I would say we get less than 10% response rate on our regular and consistent feedback requests from showings. So that means if they don't love the property as soon as they walk in, they're walking out. So we want to, if our one qualified applicant walks out the door, that means we're going to have to wait maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month before another qualified applicant walks in the door and pulls a trigger on applying for that property. So we want to make sure that we are fetching every single viable prospect. Another example that I think directly correlates here is that a lot of times we will get clients who are onboarding who are coming from the sales market, right? So they bought the home back in, let's say 2021, for example, right? Now they're moving for job relocation and they tried to sell the home and their agent put it up on the market and they needed to get, a certain amount because they paid maybe at the top of the market back in 2021, 2022, and they just can't get it. Right. So they sat on the market for 6-8 months, sometimes a year or more before they say, okay, we got to cut our losses here. And we're going to lease the property for now, maybe sell later. So they'll come to us and say, we've prepped the home for the sales market. It doesn't need anything except a sign in the front. Right. I get it. Totally. A make ready services is a whole nother webinar here. But they'll say, oh yeah, we had it cleaned, back when we listed it about 4 months ago. So I don't think we need another clean, right? Of course, we want to make sure that it sparkles for our renters. Whether it's a wipe down and maintenance check, or whether it's another deep cleaning after it's been months, and it's had several, sometimes dozens of showings, and just collecting dust over time. And like we were talking about, pests and bugs in the meantime. So that's a direct example where an additional $100 to $300 is well worth it. That's an investment in our marketing campaign. Lastly, I'd say the overlooked, if anything, topic of cleaning is preventative maintenance. So what do we mean here, Tanner, when we say we can use cleaning as preventative maintenance?
So for us, what we mean here is by, when we constantly come back and kind of keep cleaning things up, we don't really let things sit and cause bigger problems down the line. So kind of like a good example is like some dirt and grime that's left kind of unchecked and doesn't really get built up after, months, months, months if the property's vacant. Um, Eventually it could kind of become like a big problem if you have tenants move in. So that 150 that you would spend to get it cleaned the first time, and then, maybe 3 months later you spend the same thing. That'd be $300 spend instead of like a $1,500 dirt and grime clean of like when it gets to like really bad and unleft, because there are properties, not 1836 properties, but properties out there unchecked. It's just a big red flag. Tenants don't like that.
Of course, of course. Yeah, we're looking at things like appliances, flooring in particular, grout, even cabinetry. All the lifespan of these different segments of the property can be shortened pretty significantly if they're just left unchecked, right, and left uncleaned. And the other thing is, so what we do is every 30 days or so during a vacancy, we have Tanner and team perform, we call it a maintenance check and touch up. So what that is, it's a quick wipe down of the property, right? We're just making sure that it's still sparkling, but even though, it's only been on vacant for 30 days or so, or since the last cleaning. But the other thing is we want to get more eyes on the property. Agents are pretty good at letting us know, hey, I think you might have an issue here. I see a water spot, something like that. But a lot of times prospects who are viewing the property on their own, after being screened and going through our self-showing process, they're not as communicative, right? So we could have 3 or 4 showings and they're not letting us know the problems that are going on. So we obviously want to have someone go out and check on the property during the vacancy. They're going to see water spots, growth, mildew, things like that. All these things, if caught early, can be nipped in a bud versus, like Tanner said, could lead to a costly expense in the long run. So that's how, especially during vacancies, maintenance checks, touch-ups, and cleanings could prevent costly bills, otherwise preventable. Thanks so much for your input. It's always, as important as ever to have a good team and have a good a network of vendors who are able to provide insight. If you ever do have questions, I feel free to reach out to anyone at 1836 questions at 1836pm.com is a great place to shoot, or you can call our line. We'll share Tanner's contact info, Lone Star homecleaning.org. I got that right, Tanner?
Yep.
And we'll share their phone number as well. But yeah, Tanner, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks everyone for joining us. And we will talk to you soon.